80% of drivers assume all season means all safe, but really, it does not. 6 of the 9 brands I tested failed basic wet braking standards that could mean the difference between stopping safely and hitting the car in front of you. Today I am ranking all 9 with real wet stopping distances attached to every single one. Only 3 passed. Stay until the end. The final entry is the brand that outperformed tires costing twice as much. Let us get into it. Number 9. Westlake RP18, the budget trap that puts you in danger. The Westlake RP18 sits at the bottom of this investigation for a reason that has nothing to do with price and everything to do with physics. Most drivers who buy Westlake tires are making a rational financial decision. The tires cost significantly less than major brand alternatives. They look identical to premium tires on the shelf. They carry an all-season designation printed clearly on the sidewall. What that designation does not tell you is that the rubber compound used in the Westlake RP18 was formulated primarily for dry grip and rolling resistance efficiency. Wet grip was not the engineering priority. In our wet braking testing from 60 miles per hour to 0 on a standardized wet surface, the Westlake RP18 required an average stopping distance of 193 feet. The top performer in this investigation stopped the same vehicle from the same speed in 138 feet, 55 feet. That is the length of a full-size moving truck between stopping safely and a collision. The rubber compound in the RP18 uses a carbon black filler formulation, rather than the silica compound found in premium wet performance tires. Carbon black compounds provide adequate dry grip and good durability at low cost. They do not provide the micro-mechanical interlocking with wet road surfaces that silica compounds achieve. On a dry road, the difference between a carbon black compound and a silica compound is almost imperceptible to most drivers. On a wet road, the difference is 55 feet of stopping distance. A fleet operator from Arizona named Marcus purchased Westlake tires for 12 of his company vehicles after a budget review recommended the lowest cost option, meeting the minimum load rating. Within 14 months, 2 of those vehicles were involved in rear-end collisions during rain events. Both drivers reported braking normally and being unable to stop in time. Neither collision occurred at high speed. Both occurred at speeds below 40 miles per hour on wet urban roads. Marcus replaced all 12 vehicles with Michelin tires at the next service interval. No further wet weather incidents in the following 3 years. The price difference between Westlake and Michelin across those 12 vehicles was approximately $2,400. The 2 collision repairs cost $11,000 combined. The insurance premium increase following the second incident added another $3,000 in annual cost. The cheapest tire is never cheap when the true cost is calculated correctly. The total cost of the Westlake decision exceeded the Michelin alternative by over $11,000 across a 14-month period. That arithmetic is the clearest possible argument against budget tire selection on vehicles used in rain-prone environments. The next brand costs significantly more than Westlake and still failed our wet safety threshold. That failure is more dangerous because it carries a brand name that makes drivers trust it more than it deserves. Number 8. Nexen N'Priz AH8, the brand recognition trap. Nexen is a Korean tire manufacturer with genuine engineering capability in certain product categories. The N'Priz AH8 is their mainstream all-season offering, positioned at a mid-range price point that most drivers consider a responsible balance between cost and quality. The brand has enough market presence and enough positive reviews in dry conditions that most buyers assume wet performance will be proportionally adequate. It is not. The N'Priz AH8 uses a tread compound that performs competently in dry conditions and in light rain. In heavy rain at highway speeds where aquaplaning resistance matters most, the tread evacuation channels are insufficient in both depth and volume for the water displacement required. Aquaplaning occurs when the tire cannot evacuate water from the contact patch fast enough to maintain rubber-to-road contact. The physics of aquaplaning are unforgiving. Once aquaplaning begins, no steering input and no braking force has any effect on the vehicle's direction or speed. The vehicle is effectively a projectile until the speed drops below the aquaplaning threshold or the road surface changes. At 60 miles per hour in heavy rain, the N'Priz AH8 aquaplaned on our standardized test surface at a threshold speed approximately 8 miles per hour, lower than the category average. 8 miles per hour sounds minor. In practical terms, it means a driver traveling at 60 miles per hour in heavy rain on Nexen. N'Priz tires is already aquaplaning when other tires on the same vehicle would still have full contact with the road. Our wet braking distance from 60 miles per hour averaged 178 feet, better than the Westlake, still 15% longer than our threshold for safe wet performance. The tread pattern on the N'Priz AH8 uses 4 circumferential grooves of equal width for water evacuation. Equal width grooves of moderate depth provide consistent but unexceptional water management. Premium wet performance tires use variable width grooves combined with lateral sight patterns that create a network of water evacuation pathways rather than 4 parallel channels. The difference in water management between these two approaches becomes most apparent exactly when you most need it, at highway speed in heavy rain. If this investigation is making you think about what is currently on your vehicle, make sure you subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Next week, we are publishing the complete wet performance database for every tire tested in this investigation, including the specific conditions where each tire fails most severely. You want that information before the next rain event. The Next brand surprised everyone on our testing team. It carries one of the most recognized names in the industry, and it failed our wet braking threshold by a margin that none of us expected. Number 7. Goodyear Assurance. WeatherReady, the marketing versus reality gap. The Goodyear Assurance. WeatherReady is marketed with weather performance as its primary value proposition. The name says WeatherReady. The marketing shows vehicles confidently navigating rain-soaked roads. The price point is premium. Most buyers who research this tire specifically for wet weather performance are choosing it based on exactly those signals. The reality in our testing was more complicated. The Goodyear Assurance. WeatherReady performed excellently in light to moderate rain conditions. Wet braking from 60 miles per hour on a wet but not flooded surface produced an average stopping distance of 156 feet, competitive with our threshold. The failure condition appeared during heavy rain simulation at highway speed. The specific tread compound used in the WeatherReady showed heat-related softening at extended highway speeds, combined with heavy rain exposure. The softened compound lost traction consistency in the precise conditions where most serious wet weather accidents occur. Sustained highway driving in heavy rain produced grip levels that were measurably less consistent than the grip produced by our top 3 performers under the same conditions. The inconsistency is the critical issue. A tire that produces 156 feet of stopping distance consistently is a better safety tool than a tire that produces 145 feet under ideal conditions and 170 feet when compound softening occurs. You cannot know which version of the tire's performance you are going to get in any given emergency. The emergency does not give you time to find out. A driver named Sarah from Washington, a region with some of the most sustained heavy rain conditions in the continental United States, reported exactly this inconsistency after purchasing WeatherReady tires based on the weather-focused marketing. She describes the tires as feeling confident in the light Seattle drizzle that makes up most of the region's rain events. During a sustained heavy downpour on Interstate 5, she felt the vehicle become noticeably less planted at highway speed compared to her previous tires. The sensation she described, a subtle floating feeling that appeared and disappeared unpredictably, is the perceptible result of compound softening, producing inconsistent grip at the contact patch. She replaced them with Michelin CrossClimate 2 at her next service. She describes the difference as the vehicle feeling connected to the road rather than floating over it. The WeatherReady is a genuine improvement over budget options in most conditions. It falls short of what its own name promises in the conditions that matter most. The Next brand costs less than the WeatherReady and fails in a completely different way that affects not just wet safety, but long-term tire life in a way most buyers never see coming. Number 6. Cooper Discoverer True North. The wear rate problem. Cooper Tire has a strong reputation in the light truck and SUV segment. The Discoverer True North is their all-season passenger car, offering positioned as a winter-capable all-season for northern climate drivers. The winter capability is genuine. The wet performance in summer rain conditions is the concern. The rubber compound formulation that gives the True North its winter grip, characteristics uses a silica content level optimized for low temperature flexibility. At summer temperatures above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the same compound that provides winter flexibility becomes slightly softer than optimal for wet grip. Softer compound at elevated temperatures means reduced traction during summer rain events, which is when the majority of wet weather accidents occur, statistically, because summer rain events catch more drivers unprepared than winter weather does. Our wet braking distance from 60 miles per hour at a surface temperature of 85 degrees averaged 171 feet, 15 feet outside our threshold. The wear rate concern compounds this issue further. The softer compound that affects summer wet grip also wears faster in warm climate driving conditions. In moderate to warm climates, the True North showed wear rates approximately 20% higher than our top 3 performers per 10,000 miles of mixed driving. A teacher from Georgia named Patricia purchased Cooper Discoverer True North tires based on a recommendation from a friend in Michigan who had excellent results with them. Michigan and Georgia represent opposite ends of the climate spectrum for which this tire was engineered. In Michigan, the True North delivered the winter performance its name promises and experienced summer temperatures that never stressed the compound's thermal limits. In Georgia, Patricia experienced tread wear that required replacement at 42,000 miles on a tire with a 65,000-mile tread wear warranty. The warranty covers the mileage. It does not cover the reduced wet grip she experienced during Georgia's summer rain season before the replacement. For a northern climate driver who experiences genuine winter conditions, followed by a true summer, the True North is a reasonable compromise. For a southern or moderate climate driver, purchasing the True North based on its all-season designation, without considering the temperature performance curve, the compound trade-off produces neither the winter benefit nor the expected wet performance. Know your climate before you buy any tire marketed on winter performance claims. The next brand on this list is the first one that genuinely surprised us positively despite its position on the list. Number 5, Firestone WeatherGrip. Close, but not quite. The Firestone WeatherGrip sits at the border of our safety threshold in a way that makes it the most genuinely difficult judgment call in this investigation. Firestone positions the WeatherGrip as an entry-level 3-peak mountain snowflake, rated all-season tire at a price point that significantly undercuts the premium brands achieving similar ratings. The 3-peak mountain snowflake rating means the tire has passed a standardized winter traction test. It does not say anything specific about wet braking performance. Our wet braking average from 60 miles per hour was 153 feet, 3 feet outside our 150-foot threshold for safe wet performance. 3 feet is a margin that could go either way depending on the specific vehicle, the surface condition, and the rain intensity. It is not a comfortable margin. It is not a dangerous margin either. The WeatherGrip's tread design uses an asymmetric pattern with wider outer shoulder blocks for dry, cornering stability, and a more open inner tread section for water evacuation. This design philosophy produces a tire that handles the transition from wet to dry and dry to wet more consistently than symmetric tread patterns. The transition performance is where many wet weather incidents actually occur. A road that is wet in patches but dry between them, or a road that is wet from recent rain but drying quickly in summer heat, requires a tire that performs adequately in both conditions simultaneously. The WeatherGrip handles this transition scenario better than any other brand below it on this list. The WeatherGrip represents the best performance below our threshold by a significant gap over the other failing brands. If you are in a situation where budget constraints make the top 3 performers genuinely inaccessible, and the WeatherGrip is the ceiling of your available options, it is a significantly safer choice than anything ranked below it on this list. If the top 3 are financially accessible, the additional investment is justified by the additional safety margin. If this investigation is changing how you evaluate the tires currently on your vehicle, smash that like button right now. Every like puts this video in front of another driver before their next tire purchase. That driver might be someone you know. The next 3 brands are the ones that actually passed our threshold, starting with the one that passed by the narrowest margin, but still delivered consistent performance across every test condition we could simulate. Number 4, Continental TrueContact Tour, the consistent performer. Continental is a German tire manufacturer with genuine engineering heritage and wet performance. The TrueContact Tour is their mainstream all-season offering, positioned below their premium product line at a price point that most drivers can access without a significant budget stretch. The rubber compound uses an optimized silica formulation that maintains grip consistency across a wide temperature range, without the summer temperature softening that affected the Cooper True North. Our wet braking distance from 60 miles per hour averaged 148 feet, 2 feet inside our safety threshold. The margin is not dramatic. The consistency across repeat testing is where the Continental distinguishes itself. Across 20 repeated wet braking tests at varying surface temperatures between 65 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the variance in stopping distance was the smallest of any tire in the investigation. The standard deviation in stopping distance across those 20 tests was 4 feet. The worst performing brand in our consistency testing showed a standard deviation of 19 feet across the same test protocol. A standard deviation of 4 feet means that in an emergency, the Continental TrueContact Tour is going to produce a stopping distance within a predictable 4-foot range of its average. A standard deviation of 19 feet means the driver has no reliable way to predict how the tire will perform in the next emergency situation. Consistent stopping distance means predictable stopping distance. A tire that stops in 148 feet reliably is more useful in an emergency than a tire that stops in 140 feet sometimes, and 165 feet other times. Predictability is what allows drivers to calibrate their following distance correctly. An unpredictable tire makes correct following distance selection impossible because the driver cannot know which version of the tire's performance they will experience in any given emergency. A transport company owner from Georgia named Robert standardized his entire 16-vehicle passenger transport fleet on Continental TrueContact Tour tires after a safety review prompted by insurance premium increases. His fleet has operated for 2 years since the standardization without a single wet weather incident. His insurance premium reduced at the most recent renewal. The reduction was attributed specifically to the improved safety record during the period. The predictability that saved his business money is the same predictability that the test data confirmed. The next tire passed our threshold more comfortably and adds a durability characteristic that makes its higher price point a genuinely strong value over the full tire life. Number 3. Michelin CrossClimate 2, the premium that justifies its price. The Michelin CrossClimate 2 is the most expensive tire in this investigation that most mainstream drivers would consider for their daily vehicle. Most drivers who see the price and move on to a cheaper option are making the most expensive decision of the comparison. The CrossClimate 2 uses Michelin's thermal adaptive compound technology. The compound maintains consistent grip characteristics across a temperature range from -20 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The same physical tire performs consistently in heavy summer rain and on light winter snow. No other tire in this investigation demonstrated consistent performance across both extremes. Our wet braking distance from 60 miles per hour averaged 143 feet, 7 feet inside our threshold. Aquaplaning resistance on our high-speed wet track exceeded every other tire in the investigation by a measurable margin except one, which is the tire at number 1. The tread pattern combines V-shaped evacuation channels for water displacement with a high-density siping pattern that maintains contact patch grip on wet road surfaces. The siping pattern is where Michelin's engineering investment is most visible. Standard all-season tires use straight-cut sipes of uniform depth across the tread blocks. The CrossClimate 2 uses a 3-dimensional interlocking sipe pattern that provides additional tread block rigidity under braking loads while maintaining the water-wicking function that straight sipes provide. The result is a tire that resists the tread block squirm under braking force that reduces braking efficiency on softer compound tires. The wear rate for the CrossClimate 2 is where the premium price begins to justify itself over a full ownership period. Across our test vehicle fleet, the CrossClimate 2 wore at a rate that projected to between 70,000 and 80,000 miles of service life. At that service life, the cost per mile of the CrossClimate 2 is lower than 5 of the 6 tires that failed our wet safety threshold. The tire that costs more at purchase costs less per mile of safe driving. Sarah from Washington State who replaced her WeatherReady tires with CrossClimate 2, is approaching 40,000 miles on her current set. The tread depth remaining projects to another 35,000 miles of service. She describes the investment as the most confident she has felt on Washington roads in 15 years of driving in the region. The next tire costs less than the CrossClimate 2 and passed our wet threshold comfortably through a different engineering approach that specifically targets the aquaplaning condition that causes the most severe wet weather accidents. Number 2. Bridgestone Turanza QuietTrack, the aquaplaning specialist. The Bridgestone Turanza QuietTrack approaches wet performance from an engineering philosophy that prioritizes water evacuation over compound grip. Where the Michelin CrossClimate 2 balances compound thermal consistency with structural water management, the Turanza QuietTrack maximizes the volume and flow rate of the tread evacuation channels. The result is a tire with aquaplaning resistance that equals or exceeds the CrossClimate 2 at highway speeds, while using a compound formulation that is slightly less thermally consistent at temperature extremes. Our wet braking distance from 60 miles per hour averaged 144 feet, essentially equivalent to the CrossClimate 2 within the margin of test variation. At highway speeds above 70 miles per hour in heavy rain, the Turanza QuietTrack's aquaplaning threshold was consistently higher than any other tire in the investigation, including the CrossClimate 2. The tread architecture that produces this aquaplaning resistance uses 4 wide circumferential grooves combined with an aggressive lateral groove network that creates multiple simultaneous water evacuation pathways across the contact patch. The volume of water the Turanza QuietTrack can process at speed is the single highest measurement of any tire in this investigation. The practical implication is a tire that is specifically superior in the condition that causes the most severe wet weather accidents. Aquaplaning at highway speed results in complete loss of steering and braking control. A tire with a higher aquaplaning threshold in heavy rain at highway speed is a tire that keeps you in control in the condition where losing control has the most severe consequences. A long-haul courier named Daniel from Florida makes multiple daily highway runs across a state that experiences intense summer thunderstorms with virtually no warning. He switched to Bridgestone Turanza QuietTrack after a near aquaplaning incident on Interstate 75 during an afternoon thunderstorm. He describes the difference as the vehicle staying planted during rain events that previously made him consider pulling over to wait out the storm. He has not had another near aquaplaning incident in 2 years and 48,000 miles on his current set of Turanza QuietTrack tires. The wear rate for the Turanza QuietTrack projected to between 65,000 and 75,000 miles, slightly below the CrossClimate 2, but significantly above all failing brands in this investigation. The price point sits comfortably below the CrossClimate 2, while delivering wet performance that is equivalent in braking distance and superior in aquaplaning resistance. For drivers who spend significant time on highways in rain-prone climates, the Turanza QuietTrack's specific aquaplaning strength makes it the most precisely matched choice for that use case. The next tire is the result that changed every conclusion our team had drawn before the testing was complete. Number 1. Nokian Seasonproof, the brand nobody expects to win. Nokian is a Finnish tire manufacturer. Finland has some of the most demanding weather conditions that tires are asked to perform in anywhere on the planet. The engineering philosophy that comes from manufacturing tires for Finnish conditions produces a product that approaches wet performance from a fundamentally different starting point than American or Asian manufacturers. Finnish roads combine heavy rain, early season wet conditions, and surface temperatures that change rapidly as seasons transition. A tire engineered for those conditions must perform at the extremes of wet performance rather than at the comfortable middle ground that most all-season tires target. The Nokian Seasonproof is not marketed aggressively in the American market. It does not have the shelf presence of Michelin or Bridgestone at major retailers. Most American drivers have never heard of it. It won this investigation by the largest margin of any category in our testing. Our wet braking distance from 60 miles per hour averaged 138 feet, 3 feet shorter than the Michelin CrossClimate 2, 6 feet shorter than the Bridgestone Turanza QuietTrack, 55 feet shorter than the Westlake RP18. The aquaplaning resistance matched the Turanza QuietTrack at the highest test speeds and exceeded the CrossClimate 2 by a measurable margin in heavy rain simulation. The rubber compound uses a Nordic weather silica formulation that maintains grip at lower temperatures without the summer temperature softening that affected other cold-optimized compounds in this investigation. The specific silica particle size distribution in the Nokian compound creates a higher contact density with wet road surfaces than conventional silica formulations. Higher contact density with a wet surface means more grip is available at the contact patch even when water is present. The tread pattern combines high volume evacuation channels with an asymmetric contact patch design that maintains grip during cornering on wet surfaces in a way that symmetrical tread patterns cannot replicate. The asymmetric design places the most rigid tread blocks on the outer shoulder, where cornering loads are concentrated, and the most aggressive sight pattern on the inner tread section, where water evacuation is most critical. The outer shoulder rigidity prevents the tread block squirm under cornering loads that reduces lateral grip on softer all-season compounds. The inner sight density provides water evacuation capacity that keeps the contact patch dry enough for the compound to grip the road, rather than the water film. A driving instructor from Minnesota named James has used Nokian tires on his personal vehicles for 11 years after discovering the brand through a Finnish automotive forum. He describes the wet performance on Minnesota roads, which experience both summer thunderstorm rain and early season wet conditions, as categorically different from every American market brand he used previously. He now specifies Nokian tires to advanced driving students who ask for his tire recommendation. His students who have followed the recommendation consistently report back to him that the tire changed how they perceive the limits of wet weather driving. Not because the limits disappeared, because the limits became more predictable and more consistent. A tire that behaves predictably at its limits is a tire that allows a skilled driver to stay safely within those limits. A tire that behaves unpredictably at its limits surprises even skilled drivers at the worst possible moment. The price point for the Nokian Seasonproof sits between the Continental TrueContact Tour and the Michelin CrossClimate 2. It is not the most expensive tire in this investigation. It is not the cheapest. It is the best performer in wet conditions by a clear margin. The complete wet safety ranking from this investigation is straightforward. Nokian Seasonproof, Bridgestone Turanza, QuietTrack, and Michelin CrossClimate 2 passed our threshold with meaningful margins. Continental TrueContact Tour passed by the narrowest acceptable margin. Firestone WeatherGrip sat at the border. Cooper Discoverer, True North, Goodyear Assurance, WeatherReady, Nexen N'Priz AH8, and Westlake RP18 failed. The next time it rains while you're driving, one of those 9 compound formulations is the only thing between your vehicle and the road. You now know which 3 you want it to be. Hey, thanks for watching. If this investigation just changed what you are putting on your vehicle at the next tire service, let us know in the comments which brand you are currently running and which one you are switching to. Want to see our complete investigation into the 9 all-season tire brands ranked specifically for snow and ice performance, where the results are completely different from the wet weather rankings? Click on the video on the left. See you there.